In terms of the league table, this schedule through the Christmas break is supposed to get a bit easier for Barcelona, but Real Sociedad is just another one of those big tests of the season though. Real Sociedad first place in the Liga coming into this match, but hadn't won at the Camp Nou since the 1990-91 season. And like Cadiz the other day, a piece of history on the line, where Koeman was a player the last time it happened. For La Real though, there was no Oyarzabal and no David Silva, but the attacking trident of Willian José, Portu, and Zanajai isn't too shabby. They, as a team, have the top attack in the Liga and the second best defense behind Atletico, so the challenge was present. Koeman answered by, and maybe he does listen to the Barcelona podcast because Frances and I talked about Lenglet this week on the show, and he lined up Araujo and Mingueza, who played as the left center back, as the pairing at the back. Pedri back in for Coutinho, and the team started looking like a 4-3-3. Braithwaite on the left, Griezmann on the right, Messi in the middle with a very, very, very free role, and Busquets the sole defensive midfielder behind De Jong and Pedri, and that was the tactical key to this game, where Koeman got things right. But more on that in a second. This game basically is picked up by Barca doing well to start the match, playing with intensity, playing with emotion, and getting their first attempt of the game in the 9th minute through Griezmann's new haircut, which seemed to give him some new confidence. And it would have been a pretty ridiculous goal if he winds up scoring that golazo. And when you look at it, it wasn't his best chance of the match. He was putting himself in positions, but once again, more on that later. A minute after that, a cross from Dest and a header from Pedri that had the keeper beat, but just went wide. Pedri also putting himself in good positions in this match. As I said, Barca were better in this game at the start because Busquets, De Jong, and Pedri were better than Merino, Zubimendi, and Guevara. And I was actually surprised that Alguacil went with that trio because he usually has two of the three starting with David Silva in front of them, and it has been the attacking midfielder Roberto Lopez in his place. So to go with the three, we'll say more defensive-minded midfielders was interesting, and Alguacil actually got it wrong. And I know these two were different shapes between the two midfield threes of both teams, but Barca's in the first half was much more tidy in possession, and Busquets was playing some nice cross-field balls. The press for Barca was also much better, and whatever it was that they did in training this week, and they drilled out their positioning well. But as good as Barca were playing in the first 25 minutes of the match, 27th minute comes along, and they go down. Real Sociedad get the opener from a corner. Pedri loses Portu at the back post, one of Pedri's, I'd say, only real errors in this match, and Willian José crashes in to get the goal. Barca continue to give up goals off set pieces this year. It happens over and over and over again, and you could say it's the naivety of Araujo and Mingueza, but Lenglet has been on the field for plenty of these. Piqué has been on the field for plenty of these. Set pieces continue to be the issue defending. It was the Real's first shot on goal as well, after Barca had 5, so it looked as if Koeman's team were once again going to bottle a match where they were playing well and should have got some result. But, for once, there was some resiliency from Barcelona, because they get the first league goal of the season for Alba a few moments later. Messi starts the move, goes across net to Griezmann, and one touch by Pedri, on purpose or by accident, I think it's on purpose, sets up Alba. He had space, he had time, but he still had some work to do, and it's an excellent finish from Jordi Alba, as he is rewarded for what had been a good game from him up to that point. I also want to notice, too, that Messi's space, maybe, yes, it had to do with Coutinho not being around on the field and Griezmann needing to basically stay out on that right side, having that whole right side to work with. But Messi, he would drop deep in this game, but he would also be in the center a lot. And Pedri was basically moving off of Messi, and it was great to see. We had a little bit of hold-up play from him as well, where he almost operated as a false 9 at times. And I kept wondering to myself, what can't this kid do? And that continued on in the second half. And I keep saying more on that later because Pedri was, from start to finish, such an important player for Barcelona in this match. Griezmann, however, not his best showing. He had the chances, but he hits the bar a few moments after that, and Braithwaite then skies it over. Those two, they had their positioning correct, and that's what made Barca so good in the first half. But if they had finished this match, that second half wouldn't have happened the way it did. The 2-1, though, does come because Barca continued to control that first half, and it was good ball movement. I'll mention everybody. Pedri to Dest, to Griezmann, to Busquets, to Messi, to Alba, who gets a deflected cross in as De Jong went through the middle and finishes after the review. For De Jong, also his first La Liga goal of the season, and one that he deserved in this match because he was everywhere on the field as well, defensively, offensively, playing in a different position and playing much closer to the spot where Ernesto Valverde would have him play than the one where Koeman says he needs to be in that double pivot. It seemed like finally the recipe for Busquets and De Jong was found, and De Jong was the one that benefited, I think, the most from that, where Busquets was able to be the player we've expected that he's going to be for 15 years. But De Jong, changing up who he is, whether with the Netherlands or with Koeman in that double pivot before, and finally able to express himself and get those late runs in, whether it's Paulinho, whether it's Vidal, whoever you want to call it. De Jong finally, his teammates are able to find him and expect those runs. Because before this time, he'd make those runs into the box and teammates wouldn't find him because he would only make 1 or 2 per match. But there was a sense of urgency to his game today. Defensively, again, pressuring in the right spots, and it helped that instead of Coutinho, it was Braithwaite out on the left, and he's got a good work rate out there as well. And Alba, as I said, had a really good match, and that also brought some of the best out of De Jong as well, offensively and defensively. So it was easily one of Barca's best games of the season, at least one of the best halves, joining the 2-0 over Juve earlier in the season. However, things did shift in that second half. In the 55th minute, Barca were getting chances prior to subs coming in. Griezmann can't finish on the doorstep. This is a monumental moment in this match where if they don't get a result, you look back to this point, and you might continue to look back at this point in the season to say, man, Griezmann, this could have been not a turning point because if he scores it, it's just a goal, but this could really sap the confidence that he has built up and earned over the last few weeks. So not being able to finish on the doorstep after a good build-up, then another shot at the keeper. He has to finish that attempt with a wide open net. Finishing continues to play this Barca team as a whole as well. And for all the talk about space with Messi, Griezmann, and Coutinho, finishing has been the worst aspect of this squad. The first subs came from La Real though. Barrenechea and Robert Navarro, the former La Masia midfielder as well, that being Navarro, doesn't play often, but Alguacil trusting youngsters off the bench in a game you're trailing, very telling the trust that he has in his bench when Koeman push, doesn't necessarily have the same trust in those same youngsters, but instead Koeman does go with the youngsters that he does know. In the 66th minute, he counters, puts in his subs in Trincao for Griezmann and Alenya for Busquets, like for Trincao and Griezmann, but it seemed like the instructions then, changing things up with Alenya coming on for Busquets, would have dropped De Jong deeper, but keep that shape with De Jong replacing Busquets and Alenya replacing De Jong's spot on the field. We had talked a few weeks ago, and I wrote about Alenya changing his position this season to suit the double pivot, but in this game, he looked a bit like his Barca B self position-wise, much farther forward, running up through the middle, and I thought that worked for about the first 5 to 7 minutes that Alenya was on the field. He had that energy, he injected something into the game, but quickly, Barca had that energy sapped out of them, that being Alenya as well. So it wound up not being a great performance from him, but it was a let-off by the entire team. And I think a little bit both intensity and possession, taking their 60-plus percentage possession in the first half and conceding that possession at a similar number in the second half. Scary moment came in the 73rd minute, but maybe the play of the season. Mingueza gets his duel very wrong with Isaac after having barely a step wrong the entire game. Almost cost Barcelona at least 2 points here, but Pedri, Super Pedri, comes and saves a goal, putting it all out there, the definition of playing for the Crest, and what a showing from Pedri. My heart stopped when he hit that post, but fortunately he got up and was subbed out by his own power, walking off. He's going to be bruised, his hip is going to hurt, hopefully he doesn't miss any time, and Pjanic came on for him to try to close out the game. Lenglet also a few minutes later from Mingueza to close out the match, so Mingueza once again doesn't play the full 90, and Lenglet comes on, I guess you'd say for experience, to try to help take back that match, but didn't do much of anything, because in the 84th minute, Ter Stegen saves Barca with 2 saves, didn't have much to do all match long, but Ter Stegen coming up in a big moment, and Barca were fortunate just to close out the match in the way that they did, and that's what it is with Barca this season. For as good as they were in the first half, you can't have too many nice things to say after it. This game meant a lot for both of these teams, and what was promising for Barca, even I think for all 90 minutes, even though they didn't necessarily let the foot off the gas, but La Real are a good team who played like a title contender in the second half, and Barca were playing well, but they were chasing shadows in the second and had the life in that match taken out of them. And you could say that if they had fans in the stands at the Camp Nou, they might have been able to keep up that intensity and emotion for the full 90 minutes. And there were reports they were saying on the BN Sports broadcast that Messi looked as lively and inspired as he has all season long, and the team followed. When your captain is playing like that, I don't think it was the intensity. It wasn't the players or the moment, because the young guns even started. But Barca seemed to lose their ability to find each other with a simple pass, and maybe that is chalked up to a little bit of inexperience and chemistry, and this being a squad with a ton of overhaul. I thought it was another poor spot for Trincao to enter in, as he spent his entire shift defending. And every time he got forward, he was left alone on an island, or when he decided to cut in, he was putting Messi in poor positions, and Barca would turn the ball over. So Trincao, another disappointing performance for him. It's sad to see, but for Trincao, just like Alenya, Barca were losing control of that match, and they had to win it and dig in as a team. And I am going to try to be positive here, because even though they managed to survive and barely get to 3 points, it was still the first comeback of the season, even if it did happen in the first half. And the narrative changed 4 times in this match. Barca were turning a corner, then a goal from the visitors made that all go to waste, but finally some resiliency from them, looking like they cared to get 3 points. But then getting overrun in the second half and barely squeaking out the 3 points. But doesn't that sum up the Barca season? Are they good? Sometimes, especially when you consider the talent on the field. Were they bad? Yeah, there was definitely something not right with this team. But with my man of the match, Pedri, followed by De Jong and Alba, this was a big, big win over a top team in the Liga this season. Only 3 days until Valencia, so only enough time for you to give this video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. And as always, thanks for listening to this match review. We'll talk to you next time. Forza Barca.